Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because we're looking into one of the most fascinating and enduring figures of the entire ancient world. We're going to trace the cosmic journey of the ancient Mesopotamian sun god Shamash. In this explainer, we aren't just looking at some dusty mythological figure. We're really exploring how early human civilization looked up at the sky and saw the ultimate, unblinking arbiter of right and wrong.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Long before the Greeks were telling tales of Hercules, ancient Mesopotamians were singing the Epic of Gilgamesh. But behind that legendary hero stood a powerful, radiant patron deity who made his triumphs possible in the first place. So, who exactly was this celestial protector, and how did he shape the way humanity understood justice itself?
So here's our roadmap for today. To really understand his role in mythology, we first need to trace his physical journey across the sky. We'll start with his identity in the heavens, move into his role as the all-seeing judge, explore his symbols and worship, and finally look at his role as the epic ally.
Section 1. Identity in the heavens. I want you to imagine, just for a second, standing in ancient Mesopotamia thousands of years ago, looking up at the blazing midday sky. Through the eyes of an ancient Sumerian or Akkadian, you wouldn't just see a ball of gas. You would see Utu, or Shamash, and those names are functionally interchangeable. He was Utu to the Sumerians and Shamash to the Akkadians. That Akkadian name actually shares the same root as words for the physical sun in later languages, like Arabic and Hebrew. But he wasn't just a glowing orb. He was literally the embodiment of divine justice and truth.
Now, what's really fascinating is this single number right here, 20. In ancient Mesopotamian texts, deities could actually be spelled logographically using specific numerals. For Shamash, that magic number was 20. Whenever a scribe pressed the cuneiform sign for 20 into a clay tablet in the right context, boom, everyone instantly knew it invoked the glorious sun god himself.
And of course, like any great mythological figure, he had quite the family tree. In Mesopotamian theology, the sun was actually considered the son of the moon. His parents were the moon god Inanna and the goddess Ningal. His twin sister was the famously powerful Inanna. You probably know her as Ishtar. And his wife was Aya, the goddess of dawn and light. This family dynamic just beautifully maps out the celestial bodies, right? The moon literally giving birth to the sun, who is then married to the dawn.
Section 2. The all-seeing judge.
Let's move to and see how this builds. We've established his physical presence in the sky, but how does that translate to moral authority down on Earth? Well, it all comes down to his daily commute. Because Shamash rides his solar chariot across the sky from east to west every single day, his penetrating gaze misses absolutely nothing. Think about it. No crime, no broken oath, no secret, shady deed can be hidden from the sun. Because he quite literally sees everything, he naturally became the ultimate judge of the world.
And this is where the language gets incredibly fascinating. In ancient Mesopotamia, judgments had to be cut. In Akkadian, the word for rendering a legal decision is parasum, which literally translates to cut. We're going to see in a moment that Shamash's primary symbol was a saw. He literally used it to cut through the mountains at dawn, but linguistically it represented his ability to cut right through the lies and render a sharp, final judgment. The ancients carefully mapped out this 24-hour cosmic cycle. Step 1, he rides his chariot pulled by massive beasts across the day sky. Step 2, at sunset, he travels through the nether sky, which is this realm just above the underworld. And step 3, he reaches a mythical mountain called Buduhudug in the west. And this wasn't just a resting place. It was beautifully described as the place where he gets to reunite with his beloved wife, the dawn goddess Aya, after a really long day of watching over humanity.
Section 3. Symbols and worship.
Shifting the focus down from the heavens to the earth, how did ancient humanity actually worship this all-seeing entity? When artists depicted Shamash on cylinder seals or temple reliefs, they used very specific, unmistakable iconography. There's that large saw we talked about, the shasharu, used to cut judgments or physically carve his way through the eastern mountains at sunrise. You'll also see these dramatic rays of light emanating right out of his shoulders. Later on, his presence was represented simply by a four-pointed star with wavy lines between the points, and eventually the iconic winged sun.
And this brilliantly illustrates how his worship was actually grounded in two primary headquarters, both featuring these massive temple complexes named Babar, which translates to Shining White House. On one side, we have the older city of Sippar. Sippar was famous for the Naditu women, who were cloistered away almost like medieval nuns, dedicated entirely to Shamash. On the other side, we have the city of Larsa, whose temple was heavily influenced and even supplied by the powerful neighboring city of Uruk.
To really grasp how important Shamash was, we only need to look at who rebuilt those Ebibar temples over the centuries. We are talking about the absolute greatest kings in Mesopotamian history across thousands of years. From Naram-Sin of Akkad to the famous lawmaker Hammurabi of Babylon, all the way to Nebuchadnezzar II. Think about that. Kingdoms rose and fell, but history's most powerful rulers continuously poured their wealth into keeping the sun god's sanctuary shining.
Section 4. The Epic Ally.
Okay, this is the climax of our explainer, where ancient theology totally collides with literature. Let's circle back to our original hook from the beginning. How exactly did this sun god shape the Epic of Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh might be the brawn of the story, but Shamash is the divine engine driving the plot.
So the crucial point is a specific scene where Gilgamesh's mother, the goddess Ninsun, climbs to the roof of her temple to pray directly to Shamash. Actually, scratch that. It's more like she's complaining to him. She straight up blames Shamash for planting this restless desire in her son's heart to seek out adventure. She prays to him for protection and even smartly asks his wife Aya to intercede, basically saying, "Make sure your husband keeps an eye on my boy." This cements the sun god as the ultimate patron against evil.
And here's how that divine alliance plays out in the epic's biggest boss battle. Gilgamesh travels to the distant cedar forest to face the terrifying monster Humbaba. Why does Shamash even care? Well, because Humbaba represented everything evil. And remember, Shamash is the god of justice. So, while Gilgamesh is the one swinging the weapons, it is Shamash who actively intervenes, sending down 13 powerful winds to completely incapacitate the monster. Without Shamash, there's no way our hero strikes that final blow.
To bring it all together, his influence spanned an absolutely incredible time frame. From the earliest Sumerian city-states at the very dawn of written history, all the way to the Parthian city of Hatra well into the Common Era, Shamash was not just a bright light in the sky. He was the foundational archetype of the divine judge, the protector of travelers, and humanity's ultimate unblinking witness.
Which leaves us with a rather profound thought to end on. The ancient Mesopotamians lived under the constant, piercing gaze of a sun they fully believed saw their every hidden deed and heard their every whispered oath. So I'll leave you with this question. If the sun still sees all our actions today, what judgments is it cutting right now? Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep looking up.